This video is brought to you by Dr. Kristen R. Bromley's Guitar Method Book Series and Online Music Academy.
Hi, I'm Dr. Kristen Bromley. Welcome to my online academy. It's so great to have you joining me here in these online lessons. It's a Theory Thursday, so a little bit of fretboard theory in this lesson. The theory that we're going to be working on today is with intervals. So the word interval, when pertaining to music, is referring to the distance between two pitches. So we need to understand this, especially as we continue to move forward with our Theory Thursday lessons, because as we keep going, starting next week, we'll be getting into chords and how they're formed. And understanding intervals is really essential, really helpful to understanding chords, both how we play them on the guitar and just understanding them in general. So it also helps to understand our melodies, so it's super valuable and really builds on what we've been doing with the major scale, which we've done extensively. So let's go ahead and just dive in. Up here on the board, I've got a few things written. If you're visual, it may help you out. So I've got the natural notes. We know those notes. They're A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then I've got an A there to start over. And then the chromatic ones that fit in between, I've got up above A sharp or B flat that goes between A and B, C sharp or D flat that goes between C and D, D sharp or E flat that goes between D and E, the F sharp or G flat that goes between F and G, and the G sharp or A flat that goes between G and A. So we're covered there. So intervals, they have a number name and then they're further defined by things like augmented, diminished, perfect, major, minor. So first, let's just look at the numbers. Second, so 2 or second. Seconds are easy. Let's just look with the natural pitches for a moment because it's easy. When we move from one natural pitch to the next, we're moving by a second. So A to B is a second. Now melodically speaking, we have ascending intervals and descending intervals, so whether we're going higher or lower. So if we were going from a B down to an A, then we'd be doing a descending second, and if we're going from an A up to a B, we're doing an ascending second. And then if they were actually sounding at the same time, that's known as a harmonic interval, in which case we'd be playing a harmonic interval. So just for example, A to B, that's an ascending second, B to A is a descending second, and then if I play them both at the same time, that's a harmonic second. So that's seconds. If we skip over a note, we create a third. So and it doesn't matter, I did A to B as a second, B to C as a second, C to D, those are a second apart, and so on. So if we skip over one, if we go A to C, that's a third. Same thing with ascending and descending, so C to an A is a third. B and D are a third apart, C and E are a third apart, D and F are a third apart, and so on. Then we get to fourths. I knew you were going to guess that next, right? So if we skip over 2, like A to D, we have a fourth, or D to A, because we can do ascending or descending, or if they sound at the same time. So same thing, B to E is a fourth, C to F is a fourth, G and D are a fourth apart, and so on. So if we go one further, if we skip over 3, so A to E, or A and E I should say, are a fifth apart. B and F are a fifth apart. C and G are a fifth apart, and so on. We can go further. We skip over another one. We're going to get A to F, and we're a sixth. A and F are a sixth apart. B and G are a sixth apart, and so on. If we go A to G or G to A, we're talking about being a seventh apart. Now, as you see, it's easy to see with the G and the A there. It depends with the ascending and descending, or even the distance that they're sitting next to each other harmonically. In this case, you'll see that there's an inverted property here as we get towards the end. A to G, if we go A up to G, is a seventh. Or that higher G down to A is a seventh. But we can also go G up to A, which is a second, or A down to G, which is a second. So A to G ascending is a major seventh, but A down to G is a second. So there's a little bit of an inverted property there when we're doing ascending and descending. And then also harmonically we have a couple different options there as well, depending on which one's sitting above or below the other one. So when I play A and G, if I play an A and a G and the A goes down to that G, they're a second apart. But if I'm playing the A and the G is higher, they're a seventh apart. So there's a little bit of a difference there. So it's all about where they're sitting in relation to each other. So we have ascending, descending, and then harmonic when they're played together. Now, we need to further define these intervals because the sevenths and sixths and seconds and thirds, there's more than one type. And as we bring in the chromatic scale, we especially see that. So there are major and minor intervals. So the ones that have this designation are steps 2 or number 2, 3, 6, 7. 2, 3, 6, 7. I've got 9 and 13 written there at the end because we can get into what are called compound intervals. That's where we take an octave and we go beyond. So from A to a higher A, when we take A to itself, it's just what we call a unison. When we take A to a higher A, they are an octave apart. That would be designated by the number 8. If we continue beyond that octave of A to A, we're going to continue up to B, and we would get to a ninth. A ninth is just a second plus the octave. That's all it is. So an A up to this B. So I have the octave plus the major second. So that's how those work. So sometimes we'll run into ninths and thirteenths that are considered major or minor as well. So got that written there. There's also perfect intervals. So our unison is perfect. We have a perfect fourth, a perfect fifth, a perfect octave. And again, with a compound interval where we go higher, for example, we could have a perfect 11, which is the octave plus a fourth. Then we have augmented or diminished. So when we take perfect intervals and we raise it by 1 minor second or 1 half step, which I'll get into, it becomes augmented. Or if we take a perfect interval and we lower it by a minor second or a half step, which I'll explain in a second, then we get a diminished fifth. Now, the augmented fourths, diminished fifths are the same sound. They're known as a tritone. They actually split the octave exactly in half. So a minor second moves from one fret to the next on the guitar. A major second skips over a fret. Another name for these is half step, from one to the next, and whole step. We've talked about that a little bit with the major scale. So we have a half step when we move from one to the next, and we have a whole step when we skip over one. Those terms align with major second and minor second. A minor second is a half step, a major second is a whole step. We use half step and whole steps because that's the level that we live at for stepwise motion. Everything else becomes a skip. And the reason for that is because when we're going, whether it be a minor second or a major second, we are going from one pitch right directly to the next. A minor second will be half step apart. So A to A sharp or B flat is a minor second. When we skip over a chromatic, it becomes a major second. B to C is always a second. B to C happens to be a minor second because there's no chromatic in between. C to C sharp is a minor second. C to D is a major second because we skip on over that chromatic. B to C is that minor second. B to C sharp is a major second. But B to some type of C, C to some type of D, and so on, those are seconds. They sit next to each other on the staff. They sit next to each other in our musical alphabet. Everything else skips over the name of a note. A to C is a third, for example. B to D is a third. We're skipping over notes. So that's how that works. So those are another name because our minor second and major second are step. That's stepwise motion. Those are the two ones. We refer to those as half steps and whole steps as well. So lots of terms I know, slowly breaking us into them as we go. So how does this work out when if we were to put it like right in the chromatic scale? Before I mention that, I will say that theoretically speaking, we can have other types of augmented and diminished. An augmented unison would be a minor second to our ear, but on paper we could actually see something like A to A sharp, or we're seeing an A going to another type of A. So this interval doesn't really exist, but we might see it on paper. A to A sharp would be, oh, we're raising the one. Well, we can't really alter the root, or we've actually changed what we're doing. But in theory, we could actually define and see, oh, we have an augmented one on paper where it goes from like A to A sharp, if A was the root or the one. Same thing with the perfect octave. We don't really, our ear is going to hear a minor second, but we might see it written within the melodic context, or within a chord, we might see the pitches actually looking like A to A sharp. When in reality, our ear will not hear it as an augmented one or an augmented octave. If it was with the octave, it's going to hear it as a minor second or a minor ninth if we were up that high. And then, but you can have that on a major, when we take a major interval. Also, this is in addition to that, we take a major interval and we go another half step higher. If it's written out as such, we could have an augmented interval here. So when we go from a major or minor second, we could have a major second that could become augmented if we want another half step high on it. This happens with double sharps and double flats, which we don't see very often either, and really only exist in theory, not to our ear. Diminished works the other way. If we have a minor interval, a minor second, and we had it became diminished, it would be a half step lower. But again, only do we ever see that in notation on paper with the way the accidentals are used. They don't actually exist to our ear orally. They don't. So all we hear are these ones as defined here. Now let's look at how that works within, say, a chromatic scale, or the order that things are in. So we start on our one, or our root, and then we have a minor second, then the next one up is a major second, minor third, then a major third, then we have the perfect fourth. From there we go to the tritone, which is the augmented fourth or diminished fifth. Tritone is another name for that. Then we have the perfect fifth, the minor six, minor seven, major seven, perfect octave, and so on. All these continue as compound intervals. Minor ninth, minor 10th, major 10th, and so on. So let's look at how that works on guitar. Now, we've done the chromatic scale on guitar, or we have, I should say, in these Theory Thursday lessons. So if you've worked through these, then you understand how the chromatic scale works. If not, you're going to want to check out the lessons on the chromatic scale. But just for example, we know that the chromatic scale works its way right on up the fretboard on each string, one note at a time. So if I start on this F at the first fret of the 6th string, and I move up, then I've got F sharp or G flat, G, G sharp or A flat, A sharp or B flat, B, C, C sharp or D flat, D, D sharp or E flat, E, and then I have F is my perfect octave. So one fret to the next is a minor second. When I skip over a fret, it is a major second. When I skip over 2 frets, it becomes a minor third. When I skip over 3 frets, it becomes a major third. Skip over 4, and I've got a perfect fourth, which is the Here Comes the Bride interval. And then up to the tritone, which is the halfway point between the octave. Just FYI, tritone, which is also known as the augmented fourth or diminished fifth. It's got lots of names. And then when I go another one, so now I'm going from the 1st fret up to the 8th fret, I've got the perfect fifth, which is the Star Wars interval. That's one way you can memorize these intervals. The ways, like the minor second is the Jaws interval. Think of a melody, usually from TV or something that's really recognizable to your ear, and you can remember how they sound. That's a great way to start listening for intervals. But you get the perfect fifth there. And then we've got the minor 6th, the major 6th, I'm up to the 10th fret, the minor 7th, the major 7th, and then on up to that perfect octave, and I could continue with a minor ninth, major ninth, and so on and so forth. Now that's how to do it on one string and to start getting those sounds on our ear. Of course we can cross strings, and harmonically, when we have two notes playing at the same time, we've got a harmonic interval happening. So melodically, ascending or descending. So I played those from low to high, but I could go the other way. Now I have a descending octave. Now I have a descending seventh. Now I have a major seventh. Now I have a descending minor seventh. So it's depending on which one happens first, what comes after it, whether you're ascending or descending. So we can play these, and we're going to look at these in future lessons to do with these intervals. We're going to look at them and how they pertain inside of our chords, and that's what we're going to be looking at as we continue with immediately with the next few weeks on these Theory Thursdays, is how the chords are constructed on the guitar, and even how chords are just constructed in general, which the intervals really help us understand this, as does the major scale. Here's something kind of cool as you're looking at crossing strings and so on. We've worked extensively with the major scale on these Theory Thursday lessons, or in these Theory Thursday lessons. So, and if you haven't seen them, that's okay. You can check out the major scale, the different parts of the major scale, and learn how to play the major scale all over the fretboard and in first position. Now, this is what's really cool about the major scale. As you're starting to figure out how to play intervals all along the fretboard, is that when we're looking at the major scale, from the root going higher, every single one of these intervals is going to be a major interval above the root or a perfect interval above the root. So our second is a major second above the root. So we go up to that, it's a major second, or from that, I'm playing right now B flat, 6th fret, 6th string, right there in the middle of the neck. So I'm playing a B flat major scale, just a single octave here. So from B flat to C is a major second, or C back to the B flat is a major second. When we go from that root up to the third, it's a major third, or that third back to that root, we got a descending major third. The root up to the perfect fourth, it's a perfect fourth. And then if we go up to the fifth, it's a perfect fifth. If we go up to the sixth, it's a major sixth. If we go up to the seventh, it's a major seventh. And then if we go up to the octave, it's a perfect octave. So that's kind of a neat thing. So you can practice playing each of those major intervals going from that root. So I've got my major second, major third, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, major sixth, major seventh, perfect octave. Now, what if I wanted to figure out, using that scale, how to play the minor ones then, or the diminished ones, or augmented? So I have my root, 1 fret higher, so minor seconds are 1 fret lower than a major second. Minor intervals can be played 1 fret lower than a major interval. Diminished intervals can be played 1 fret lower than the perfect. Augmented play 1 fret higher than the perfect. So if I want to go up to that minor second, it's just 1 fret lower than the major second. If I want to play a minor third, I can jump down 1 fret lower than where the major third is. If I want to play the tritone, or the augmented fourth diminished fifth, it's 1 fret higher than the perfect fourth, or 1 fret lower than the perfect fifth. If I want to play a minor sixth, it's 1 fret lower than the major sixth. The minor seventh is 1 fret lower than the major seventh. So to play those, which is kind of an interesting sound. And then I jump to the perfect octave, which sounds a little funny. There, I'll go up to that minor ninth. So you can start finding intervals on the guitar in that way. We're going to get inside of them a lot more as we work through the harmonies. So hope that helps as an introduction to intervals and an understanding there. Super important as we understand our melodies and a lot of the different things that we do on the guitar, but especially as we're going to be looking at chords next. It really helps to understand the intervals and how they play in, because they play a major part in the chords that we play. So hope you're having fun. Take care, and we'll see you in lots more lessons. Of course, on Tuesdays we have our Tuesday tidbits, that are our technique tidbits that come out on Tuesdays. On Saturday, On Saturdays, we have different mini courses that are coming right now. The one that's airing is on flat picking, improvisation in the flat picking style. So super fun. When that one concludes at the end of June, we'll be getting into jazz guitar. So it'll be a jazz guitar mini course. I say mini course just because there's not a book that goes with it, and the lessons are shorter in length. They're not an hour or so long. So like a full class at the university. So just mini courses, short little lessons come out every week. Keep at it. Take care, and we'll see you again. If you found this video helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. For more in-depth lessons and to progress through a free guitar course, check out my Guitar 101 series on YouTube and my guitar method books, which all come with access to hours of in-depth video lessons. You can find more information about me and my products at kristenbromley.com. Take care.